All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in to I'm Not Okay Why. I'm Coach Deb, and I welcome you. I welcome my team today. Y'all, say hello to the good people. They are live and watching.
Good evening.
I believe everybody know everybody. We've been out of commission, at least I have been. I know that y'all have been rocking and rolling. Y'all been a part of a lot of platforms and doing what y'all do best, and that's giving good information and helping people to uh, press. So today we're going to talk about domestic violence and voting. And of course, we're still always staying in the vein of it takes a village. So once again, welcome Facebook Live Time. Not okay. Why? I'm Coach Deb, and I have Dr. Holly, I have Alicia Jerry, I have Rhonda Anita, and of course, we're going to have the one and only Dr. Margaret Conley coming in shortly. So I want you guys to go ahead and let's just get it started because you know how time flies, and we want to really press tonight about the importance of voting. But because this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, let's go ahead and talk about that as well because we want to make sure that we give resources, to people that are looking for a way out. We want to speak love and hope to them. So let's start with Dr. Holly. You're the only gentleman. I normally don't do this, but you are the only gentleman. So I'm going to start with you tonight. Let's talk about the importance of community when it comes to when you see something, say something. This is regarding domestic violence, and I want to be sure to acknowledge that quote coming from Barack Obama. Am I right about it, Alicia?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, how important is it for us as a village, as a community, not to just close our eyes when we see people hurting or in trouble, as it equates to violence, not just domestic violence, but anything that's wrong or seen to be wrong, appear to be wrong.
Yeah, I would say it is very important that we speak up and speak out on the behalf of others who may be in some struggling situations. I would also advise that we be fully sure, before we run wild with something.
I totally agree. That's wisdom.
Absolutely.
So being a leader, in the community and being a clergyman, uh, the importance of being transparent and open to share when you recognize, a scar, you recognize even mental, emotional scars, when you are in a place,
Those
when you're
are
in the
actually
vet.
a lot more easier to recognize.
Absolutely. So what is the right approach? Because people are
Oh,
very private these days.
yeah, for real. And then, and if you do it wrong, you'll run people off, and as
Right.
a result of it, you'll never get an opportunity to help. So you have to pay attention. You have to be discerning. You have to be very discerning, naturally and spiritually. You have to be able to pay attention to what's going on with people. Um, Definitely changes, and then watching both people to see their emotional ups and downs. You can see control issues. You can see manipulation in real life. And different things like that. So you have to just pay attention and just and then lead with wisdom. Pray and ask God. To open up opportunities. Pray, ask God that if someone is in a real tough situation like that, that they would have the courage at least to reach out. If nothing else, just to be able to let is something bad, going on in their world. That's
Okay. Well, I'm pressing with you because when I move forward, I'm going to speak to women that can speak on it from a level of not experience, possibly working with someone in that situation.
right.
So, you being a clergyman, a pastor, a shepherd over a flock, uh, it's very important that we bring these issues to you know the pastors and the teachers of the assembly, right?
Right.
So the approach, I get it, but at what point should you be aggressive? Because I'm a survivor and an overcomer,
Mhm.
and I was being abused in the church. I was preaching and everything, but yet still getting beat and going to church. And nobody approached me. Nobody, because I wore that smile. but yet, you in Christ. You don't know I'm in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
At what point, are you not paying attention?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's got to be a way to be able to embrace and pull this person aside. It's got to be steps to that. It's got to be something, because we live in a day now where I think you have to be the aggressor.
Mm-hmm.
People are more proud. They're more proudful now than they were then, because that's been almost 30 years ago. So they're more proudful now. So it's like we gotta be more of the leader when it comes to aiding and helping people.
Right.
So you speak to other leaders that are listening tonight,
Mm-hmm.
because we got to take a hold of this. We cannot require the government and organizations and all this kind. When people are brought to our attention, when we have that opportunity, we have to seize it. So we better be ready to handle it.
That's the biggest piece is when it's brought to your attention.
Okay.
And that's, I think you can become a little bit more aggressive at that point because you now have some sense of what actually really is going on. And that's important because when you start talking about dealing with people's relationships
Mm-hmm.
and their marriages, it can
Mm-hmm.
get real interesting real fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you have to be mindful of that and also wise. And I'll tell you something else, and y'all may disagree with me, but as much counseling and as much, um, in dealing with people's marriages and relationships that I've had over the course of my ministry, I can always guarantee this. There's most of the time more monsters in a relationship than just one.
Mm-hmm.
So even if someone is abusive and they're, physically abusive,
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, that you'll see someone who's controlling and, emotionally abusive and other things like that. It always comes together. Very rarely do you run into the situation where it's just one victim, and one offender. Most of the time it's an exchange going on and neither one of them know how to deal with it healthy.
I totally agree with that. I know that it takes two.
Mhm.
Even if the person that is being the one victimized the most is not the aggressor, it's always a piece. It's always a place, because I never lift a hand. But you can best believe I played a role, because I had a tongue
Right.
and I talked a lot of junk.
And no one has any right to put their hands on someone else.
Right.
I know personally, as a pastor, I've told people to just separate. You don't necessarily have to divorce, but just let's get apart right now because this isn't healthy, and it can go for bad. One thing I do also know about abuse and domestic violence is that it increases, it gets worse. So every time the one abuses the other, for some reason it just escalates. It continues to get worse. Every time the abuse happens, it gets worse. And that's something we don't want to see happen. That could end up with someone's, life taken or something.
Well, coming from experience, I can tell you why it gets worse, because the root has not been addressed.
That's
That's why it gets worse, because the root of the very issue on both sides have not been
that's
addressed. Rhonda, Nita, let's speak from, and welcome, Margaret. Where are you? You came in, love. Where did you go?
I'm right here. I'm back.
Okay, it's good to see you, Sugarfoot.
Good to see you guys. I missed y'all for 3 weeks, I think. Thank
Well,
y'all
bless
for
the. Okay, go ahead and throw some shade. Y'all hear what she said? She said three. She said 3 weeks. It wasn't no 3 weeks, but hallelujah then. Okay, so Rhonda, I want you to speak from experience and talk about what Dr. Holly just stated. He said it gets worse. It don't get better.
Yeah.
Okay, I totally agree. I also know that from experience, in my opinion, the reason why it got worse on my end is because the issues was not addressed. The root was not addressed. You know, I just played like it didn't happen because I lied all the time. I had an excuse for the black eyes. I had excuse for everything. You know what I'm saying? So nothing was never put it on the table to discuss it. And then of course I was afraid to, because I figured that if I brought it to his attention, he'd be mad about it because he wasn't ready to talk about it. So, what is your opinion? I mean, how do you see it?
So one thing I do want to address as it relates to there being two monsters in the situation, I believe that sometimes um, the victim, either on the top end or the bottom end, starts to retaliate. And, we saw that very well with, I'm just going to use a public story, which was Tina Turner and Ike. Ike was, aggressive. He was beating her. He was manipulating and controlling her the whole time. And at some point she was like, listen, I'm done with this. And then she retaliates and fights back. Although she physically didn't win, she emotionally won herself back.
She won herself back.
Right.
Know that.
Right. And during that time, she could have easily gone to the church or to seek help. And it could have been looked at as the fact that she retaliated, that she was part of the problem as well. So dealing with, domestic violence and different clients that come to me, I've heard from men who have said, tell women to not provoke.
Yes.
If I'm leaving, let me leave. Don't run to the door trying to stop me from walking out of the door and causing additional upset. If I need to take a break, I need to take a break. And at that time, you're in a dangerous place. I can't even articulate it. I'm just making a beeline for the door because I know what's about to happen. So we have those situations where women are provoking and trying to stop him from leaving. We also still have a tradition or a generation of people that believe that if you're hit on, if you're beat, that means he loves you, and which is equally toxic, all while the children are watching. And so there's many factors in dealing with abuse. We all have a choice. If you are feeling pressured on every side where her mouth or his mouth is too much and it's causing you a rage on the inside, then it is your responsibility to make the decision to leave, to walk away before you do something that is going to either cost you or her, or cost a life, or cost someone to be in jail. So, regardless, Black women have, over the years, and let's keep this in mind. 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 3 teens, and 1 out of 7 men will experience domestic violence in their lifetime. So this is not a female issue. So when I'm speaking about women only because current statistics say 85% of women are reporting it versus what men are reporting. So we're speaking of females more so that are reporting it. But I've come in contact with men who said, they've been abused, and I don't know if it's the pride that keeps them from reporting it. But at any case, we all understand that domestic violence is power and control. If I can hit you or scare you or intimidate you or cause you to do what I need you to do, you'll be fearful of me and you will allow me to have my way with you. And then you have situations where there's substance abuse involved. There's mental illness involved. There's children that have grew up in a domestic violence household are more likely to become abusers or to be a victim themselves. The other option is they could become an advocate. So we have so many different scenarios to look at as to why people are in domestic violence situations.
Okay. Alicia, I want you to speak on what Rhonda Anita is stating. By the way, for those of you that are listening, Rhonda Anita is an advocate for victims of domestic violence, and she'll be sharing later what it is that she can do to help anyone that is in need of help, because she also has an organization that help women that are in trouble, as well as Alicia Jerry. Alicia, I want you to speak on first. Rhonda stated that she believed that maybe it's pride, the reason why men don't acknowledge that they're being abused. I tend to believe that it's shame. I believe that shame is one of the causes for men and women. Why? Because I experienced it. I can always just speak for me, not the story of another, because I know deep down in my knowing the things that I speak, I know that it happened where I'm concerned. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Right.
share from what Rhonda stated.
Okay. I believe it's a combination
I do too.
of the two.
There
I
you
believe
go.
it's a combination. And what I have found from my experience is men will go to an individual or a smaller organization or a smaller institution versus a national stage to divulge they've been abused or experienced violence. It's going to a bigger platform that usually deters them from stating they're in trouble, that anything's going on with them. They will come to an individual and say, ABC, XYZ, can you help me with this? Because nobody else knows other than you, or nobody knows other than these few people. The more people they find is going to be involved, the less likely they are to divulge, in my experience. It's what I'm finding. So it is shame, it is ego, it is pride, it is what are my boys gonna think? What are my people gonna think? What are people gonna think? On both sides, what are people gonna think? But then there comes a place where we all come to within ourselves, to our own knowing, to ourselves, as she said about Tina, that you have to do something for yourself. So at that point, that pride, the ego, the shame, all of it goes out of the window. So I think that's the main thing for men. And also back to the church and what the church can do. I think there has to become a place within church. I hate using the word a ministry, but a place, a space within the church where people can come and say whatever it is they need to say about whatever it is they need to say. Whether it's domestic violence, whether it's substance abuse, sexual abuse, whatever the issue is, there has to become a space where people can, one, get back to trusting the church, get back to knowing there is a space. I myself find it difficult to be that type of person in a church because people know what I do. So anybody, time they see anybody speaking to me one-on-one, oh, is he a victim of whatever? But there has to be a space somehow that there's complete, authentic conversation about what some people can come to and lay whatever down and know it's confidence, knowing that it's never going to be repeated outside of the four walls it was divulged in. There has to be a space that we can initiate, or we can pull a sister aside. You got a black eye. You need to explain that to me. He's speaking roughly to you, or you're speaking roughly to them all the time. We need to have a conversation about that. These are our leaders. Our pastor should be able to say those things to us, I believe, and then send you to this safe space to get the help that you need. I believe that's what has to happen. I walk into active situations because that's what I do. I don't fear that, because the thing I know about men battering a woman and a woman walking up to them, challenging them, he will not hit me. I've never experienced it in all these years. It's never happened. But that's me. I don't advise anybody else to do that. But in active situation, I can understand a little hesitation. But if it's a case where it's your neighbor, it's an active situation and you leave it be, okay, tomorrow you go check on that sister. Sunday, you see a sister with a black eye at church. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you check on that sister. There has to be follow-up. If it's a person that you ever gonna see again, can you in some way give them your phone number? Can you in some way say something to them, speak to them, a smile at them? It's the simple things like that that will stop the violence that's right there going on. The simple thing like that will make them rethink allowing the violence to continue. And as you said, Coach Deb, I think we as a community, as a people, have to be more proactive in these things. You see police violence, you see everybody with their phones out. Okay, we got the video. Could we have saved that life? I mean, could we have saved that life? Everybody has their phone out, but could we somehow have saved that life? So I think it's going to come to the point that we are all going to have to be more bold and be in community in these instances. We it can't happen to all of us at the same time. It cannot happen to all of us at the same time. So if we're all there, it cannot happen to all of us at the same time, whatever that means.
Oh, wow.
We used to have a term that we would say domestic violence is your business. So I know, back then people say, oh, that's just the neighbors, or, oh, that's, that's them down the street or whatever, but it's your business because it affects not only that household, but that entire community.
Absolutely.
And then considering the bruises we can't see, like financial abuse, sexual abuse in a relationship. I wrote a poem about that and spoke at that on church on Sunday. Talking about, psychological and spiritual abuse, there's things that, we just gotta even so not look for the physical patterns, but the patterns of withdrawn and timidness and afraidness in the public, wherever we are, kind of picking up on those cues as well.
That would be people you're more intimate with. Of course, you can see changes. The girl that used to hang with you, not out, but your girl used to go shopping with you every week. Now your girl 2, 3, 4 weeks, she's not coming. Girl, I got you. You come, let's go eat. I got you. If you don't have the money, that's how you start that conversation. If you don't have it, I got you. And then that starts the conversation as to why we're not doing this anymore when we've always done that. Yo, bro, we golf every other day. What is the problem? You're not coming to golf. What's going on? You need me to spot you? That starts, opens the door for that conversation. So it's not, I have to come to you cold and say ABC, XYZ. I find.
It's funny that you said that, because I was about to ask Dr. Margaret, what is the conversation? What actually, as a clergy, because you are a woman of the cloth, what is the conversation from the pulpit that's a universal language to talk to everyone sitting there, whether they've been abused or not? Because it takes a village and community, all of that. Then we got to find a universal language. A hug, a handshake. We've got to be able to look at each other in the eyes and notice that something's not the same. If the opportunity doesn't present itself for us to call or text and find out, I missed you today. We normally go walking. When opportunities like that don't present itself, then there's got to be another way to where it's not so aggressive to where it would scare them away. Because remember, it's a number of things that keep people from talking about it. We done already acknowledged that it's pride and shame, and of course a number of other things, right? So we need a language that is acceptable to reach our neighbor, to reach the people that we love.
Well, for the church,
I don't know.
For the church, or speaking for the church, a lot of us, I grew up in Baptist faith tradition. So that's like one of the only traditions where like education probably is not at the top. So if you got the sound, they want you to preach. But it's really what I say, the universal language is we want to use biblical practice in this. If we're talking about the church, I want to pull out my Bible. So universal language for us is actually going to be reading and utilizing the word of God. So I would definitely preach on those stories that talk about domestic violence, preach on those stories that talk about sexual violence, preach on them. And for preachers, they're afraid to talk about them because what does that look like if I say that God allowed this to happen? Because that's really where they go. But that's not what the text is saying. The text is saying humanity existed and humanity still exists. So now what can we do? I wrote a piece in a book called Fiercely Speaking about my mother and I's experience of domestic violence. And so for those who come in my office, the universal scripture I use is, though I speak with the tongue of men and of angels and have not love, I become as sounding brass or a tinkling cymbal because we're not speaking. And so because we're not speaking, I see you, that's fine, but we're not opening up. We're not allowing love to activate a space of healing. And so I go through this with my individuals who are in spaces of abuse. And I talk about what love is not. We preach that text. We go to 1 Corinthians 13 and we have a good time with it, but we don't dwell enough on the other half of that, what love is. It also talks about what love is not. And I don't hear a lot of preachers go to the what love is not. They don't sit on that. And it frees a lot of people. I see a lot of domestic violence situations in my office, whether it is heterosexual, homosexual, whether it is long-term, where just like Rhonda Anita said, like these people actually believe I'm supposed to get hit and I don't know why he's not hitting me anymore, you know. And I've had a lot of men to come and they sit in spaces of shame because it's like my wife is hitting on me and I don't really know what to do about that. I mean, and I'm talking about brothers that I know they pushing 300 with their arms. Like, then they like, she hits on me, I don't feel it, so I just brush it off. But truthfully, it's tagging their esteem. So because I really want to hit her back because that's human. I don't like you punching on me. I don't like you hitting on me. And so if we could have this universal language to talk about what domestic violence looks like in our community from a biblical standpoint, if we're going to come from the church, we really need to look at that, and we need to look at the different avenues of domestic violence. Again, we look at the hit, we look for the physical, visible scar, but just like Rhonda Anita said, what about these invisible scars, like these emotional scars, the gaslighting that happens in marriages and partnerships, the absolute intrusion of privacy, because even though you are married, you still need space. The control factor, the codependency that happens that leads up to these spaces of domestic violence. And you will find that it's not just women that are being abused in the word. You will also find where men are sitting here like Hosea. I rarely hear a preacher preach about Hosea and how his wife treated him. Rarely hear it. And like, I wish a Father's Day for single fathers could be preached out of Hosea. Like, this man was raising his kids. She was mentally abusing him. Like, she's cheating on him, telling him what she's going to do. But we don't preach it from that. And maybe because I'm a clinician, I don't know. But like, what does that look like when we give permission for men to call out that emotional abuse is happening because this wife is not able to stay home and be in this coupled relationship is to be understood in 2020. So like, what happens with that emotional abuse in that space of domestic violence for men? Like, never heard anybody preach Hosea from a domestic violence standpoint, which would give men freedom maybe to speak a little bit. You know, because opportunity. Yeah, they don't get an opportunity because I'm supposed to take it. You're not supposed to take it. That is not the will of God for your life, to take abuse, period, for any human. That is not how we're designed. So what happens with that? And that's how I see it. We can have a universal language by using biblical text instead of trying to create another method. It's right there in the biblical text. If we could just use it and not be afraid to speak it or talk about it. I mean, great Bible studies can come from these places to help men and God. Be very helpful. So that's how I see it.
It's all been done before, right?
Yeah, it's all right. If we could look at it, it's literally right there. But sometimes I don't know if we're afraid to preach the text or we're afraid to look at the text. I don't know, but it's there, and it can cover everyone when it comes down to domestic violence. It shows up for men and women in the text.
So the tools are there. It's just the willingness of the clergy to now speak on it is what we need to promote. As advocates, we need to be in the space of leaders saying there needs to be a voice. Is that what needs to happen now?
It absolutely needs to be voiced. And some of our clergy, I mean, I speak with clergy often, and some of them are just afraid because what happens is it's their leadership. And so like, if I speak to this, I'm actually going to be speaking to my leadership. And so I would encourage clergy to
I'm sorry. What do you mean your leadership? You mean their leaders are involved
amongst the church? Amongst the administration.
In the church. Like, so like in my story, because everybody in Cartersville, Georgia, whoever's watching can read my story, go buy the book, or you probably heard my story if you're from Cartersville. So the pastor at the time at the church literally encouraged the abuse because he wouldn't listen to the women. Amen. He encouraged it. He encouraged it in his sermons. He encouraged it if you had private sessions with him. He encouraged it. now that he's retired and he looks back, we all got apologies. My mom couldn't receive the apology. Like, she could not. 25 years later, my mom was like, F you. Like, I mean, it was it. I don't want your apology, because when we tried to come, you literally said, if you shut up, tell your daughter to shut up. And if you quit acting like a little girl because your daddy died when you were 7, maybe he could feel like a man. He didn't realize what we were saying to him. Like, no, he's beating us. Like, he's physically hitting us. He's not giving us right food. He's not taking care of us. And my dad, had a mental problem. So at the end of the day, it's like Rondanita said, and we found out that he had psychosis. So like, this stuff is popping out because he's a Vietnam veteran. But if the pastor would have been able to hear versus sitting in a space of misogyny and toxic masculinity,
Absolutely.
that would have salvaged, and it maybe would have saved my parents. It probably would have saved a lot of trauma for me, because it was a lot of us that grew up like that, because again, in Black church, he's the head of the house. He is over everything. He's loving you like Christ, as far as we can see.
As far as we can see.
Yeah, I don't want to dig deeper. And when you sit in my office, I'm going to tell you to shut up and let him be a man. What if that person doesn't know what that means? Like, I don't understand the definition of let me be a man, because come to find out, not only did my dad have these problems from serving in wartime, he was an abused kid. So the only way he knew how to discipline was abuse. Like, so I don't know how to hit you 3 times and tell you to stop. I'm going to beat you till you bleed. And that's what you're going to get, and you're going to receive it and not cry about it. Like, because I don't know any other way to punish you. I don't know a healthy way, because I didn't have a healthy way of punishment myself. So I'm giving you what I got. So if churches, again, could go to the text and see, again, there are examples of that where we watch people. David, I always go to him, prime example. He out in the fields and we honor that. But Jesse didn't acknowledge his son.
At all.
That's a form of abuse. That's mental abuse. He didn't acknowledge him. It took 2 times for him to say, oh, you want the one outside? I mean, what happens with that? Like, oh, that one. Like, what happens in this space for men and women when the esteem is so low and they don't know how? And so I'm not taking up for the abuser tonight, but I just get to see both sides, because what if this is all I know? And so if the church should come and talk about it and put it in the forefront, this will be very helpful for us to speak it, call it to, and get healing for both sides, if possible.
Absolutely. Dr. Harley, I've been itching over here to get back to you. Bruh, because now, Dr. Margaret just said a mouthful. And Jesus, it's too real. It is too real. Make you start thinking about stuff that you don't forgot about. Why is it that abuse is normalized in the Black church? Why is it normalized by the clergy? Why does the clergy make excuses, male or female? Why do they make excuses for the abuse?
Well, it's the exact same reason why people practice religious consciousness in church. The same reason why people will lean more toward nostalgia in church versus spirit-led movement. And I can't speak for all churches. I know for our church, we've always been a very progressive church. So some of this stuff has always been common language. The intent to see people walk out full deliverance through therapy or counseling, as well as understanding a different level of relationship in their word, has always been our push. So some of this stuff sounds strange to me that,
Wow, really?
Yeah. I can't even imagine a church that's dry like that. You know what I mean?
Oh my, yes, Lord. I think it's the South. I don't know, Margaret. I think it's the South,
I do realize.
And Holly's progressive. Dr. Holly's very progressive. I've known Dr. Holly for a long time. I don't even know if he knew that.
I think Dr. Holly come from Jersey or California somewhere.
But again, and I do think some of it is South, but I also think it also plays into that Southern understanding of pastor role. So I can't give up on I can't give up on a man, and so I gotta empower this man. But if I hear this woman's story, I'm going to disempower, which isn't true. You just really bring healing to the entire house if you hear both sides of the story, which is how I grew up. Is men felt unempowered, and I know I just made up a word. I could say disempowered, but like literally unless they had this authority place given to them, they didn't know what to do. I mean, it was even taught when I was growing up that a man could reach God faster than a woman. In Women's Day, I heard a woman preach it. I was 17. I got up and walked out. Anybody who know Duchess know I got up by the choir stand and said, let me get out of here. I can't do this today. But that was the type of church I was sitting in, because that was what was being taught, and people believed it because they wanted to hold on to their homes. Like, they didn't want to lose what they had. So I'm gonna let Holly finish, but that, I really don't think it was an ill intent when I was a teenager. And now that I'm 40, I can go back to that. But this is where we're sitting in a space that's an uneducated space. I'm not saying these brothers are not smart.
You just said a mouthful. An uneducated space.
Uneducated. And so bring in people that understand it. Bring in Rhonda Anita. Bring in Alicia Jerry. Bring in the advocates so they can tell you what these statistics are, what happens, and how we can bring healing to the home versus just trying to say, well, we can pray about it. Because prayer, I promise, I got plenty of prayers as a kid and still went home.
Man, come on now. I was preaching from the pulpit, praying folks through. Come on.
It's real, and that's common. That's very common. Something else to consider, and let us not glaze over it too quickly. A lot of this is due to unresolved trauma. So
I was so hoping that you would say that. I was going to get back to you and ask you to speak from a general, because since you're not aware of this commonplace with how we were raised in these small churches, I wanted you to speak
not aware of how this is handled in most churches.
Most churches,
Never had a direct involvement with any type of church culture. Now as a child, my mother experienced the exact same thing, and I'm the one that told the pastor. You know what I'm saying? They got into counseling and therapy and everything else. You follow what I'm saying? But as an adult leading ministry, we just have a very different look with ministry. But I think it's all interrelated when you start talking about the religious consciousness that people practice relationship with. It's wrong. It's totally limited and wrong. And as a result of it, you have people sitting in church saved, but not delivered.
Bro, it's occultish. Mm-hmm. Let's just say the truth. It's occultish.
Yeah, it's
with the ISH on the end. Yes, indeed.
It's real. So
it's brainwashing.
Absolutely.
So when you think about our church, just a unity worship, our vision is literally to break slave-mindedness.
Hey, God. Jesus. There it is right there.
The deficit that causes
there it is right there.
A black man to see himself different, for him not to appreciate himself, not to appreciate his identity, his truth, and so that's something broken in all of that. So this has been the intent. So I can't say, or I won't say that we went after a certain struggle differently than we went after every other struggle, because it's all connected. It's literally all connected. And when you start dealing with trying to see healing come apart, to come forward, you have to start pulling all of this apart. You have to realize why this man has these inferiority complexes, why is he so angry? What caused him to react that way to a sister? He's like, because all of it is connected to something. It's not just somebody just woke up and said, I'm gonna be a villain today, It's some brokenness and broken places with that individual. So you have to get down in there to give them the opportunity to free themselves, And I know that took a little bit.
That was a breath of fresh air is what that was. Yeah. Y'all agree with that?
So how does that space happen? I get there needs to be, I get Margaret, it needs to come from the pulpit. They need to preach. You're absolutely right, because I've heard Hosea preach. I actually have before. So maybe that's why my church experience is totally different from y'all's. And I appreciate this time that I am learning a lot, because I had no idea that type of thing was happening. That's just not my experience.
The worst experience.
So I am learning a lot tonight. So I'm like, okay, new mission. How do we break this chain? Because if this is something that's rapid, that's commonplace, that's normal.
Very, very,
today,
it's normalized.
Then then what is our call to action as
Yeah.
advocates? What is it that we need to be doing? I need
Right.
to be on the altar about something new, a new program.
Mhm.
What is it that we're about to do about this?
It's called changed mind. It's called changed mind, because you can't make no kind of moves and do something different unless there's new knowledge,
Absolutely.
unless there's new understanding. There's got to be a changed mind for there to be new results, or you're going to continue the same thing.
Right. I also think too, in renewing our mind,
Come on now.
we have to bring the men to the table, because again, statistically, this looks like female being beaten by male, and we know that that's not the case.
It's not.
It affects the whole family. But
Absolutely.
I think that in somehow reaching the positive, influential men in the church to help create the platform for advocates and for the discussion to take place. There are some progressive churches that will, allow, I've spoken and did workshops at churches before. It came through the wife because she was a survivor and her husband supported it. And then he preached on it on the following Sunday, which was amazing to hear. But that's just the beginning. So how, being able to really reach the men and them strengthening the importance to the pastor who's not able to hear from us because he has a traditional woman sit down, be quiet type of mentality. Like those are some college demons to be tearing down. Like those things have been there for a long time. But for some of those churches that have a presence, if we can, maybe get to the Jamal Bryant's of this
Absolutely.
time and have those conversations, and then he bring the clergy together. Now everybody is willing to talk and implement programs and say, yes, we're going to pray, but we're also going to work. Faith without works is dead. We're going to do both. And so I think really being able to reach those male leaders that we know, like a Dr. Holly, who's not, oblivious to the problems that we're speaking on at this moment regarding intimate partner violence. So I think that's a start. I count my church. I'm very grateful for the ministry I'm in. They, they support me in, doing different workshops and speaking on domestic violence. But maybe I need to even go further and say, okay, now let's get your male pastors in here. Let's have a conversation with them, since I have my leaders' ear. Maybe that's where I start with, my man of God who supports the mission, and saying, okay, Bishop, we need to go further than just our house. We need to go and I think that's the charge God just gave me.
You know something? This is a good look, because I wanted a resolution, because we're fixing to shift. We're going to shift to the voting, because we need to, our last 15 minutes, I want us to talk about the importance of voting in our community and the change mind of people that feel that, well, their vote doesn't count. And then, of course, trying to decide on voting, between the two evils. So this is what I get from the conversation regarding domestic violence. There's room for change. I like the fact that we need to bring different men and women to the table, which have influence. And I like the fact that it has been shared, these different views, how deep this thing is, how deep rooted it is, a slave mentality. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Holland.
That's going to be very important to highlight, that when you deal with just domestic violence, right, I promise you there's always a much deeper rooted issue.
Yes, Lord.
Absolutely, much deeper.
And this issue, whatever that deeply rooted issue is, the design of the love of God, the design of our faith is for that to be healed and not just sit dormant, or not just sit for someone to suppress it into their triggers. You follow me?
It's time out for that.
I promise you, this becomes the value of preaching a holistic message.
Yeah.
Not
Absolutely.
treat one symptom, but deal with healing an individual.
Man, listen. Exactly. That's it right there.
I promise you, that's it.
Jesus. That's it right there, Margaret. That's it right there.
And I know we're transitioning into voting. I think this statement will be a good transition because as Dr. Holly said, it's a deeper root than just the domestic violence piece, the physical hit. Again, like I mentioned, my father, once it was investigated, like we went through and found it. And truthfully, that was my undergraduate work because I couldn't figure out why it went so south so bad. Like I started asking questions. Well, he didn't know a better way. So here's this deeper root. Here's this understanding. Here's where the culmination of domestic violence ended up in my home. So like there was no healing for him. So, and thus I'm going to give you what I have and I'm going to give it to you guys how I know to give it. So, we say Romans 12, 1 and 2, this urge, by the mercies of God to present our bodies as living and holy sacrifices acceptable to God. And so, this to renew our minds. So the renewing of a mind in Greek is literally talking about the capacity to reason or to do some reflective thinking. So like, if this is the case, it's inviting me to think on this process. This is a process. This is an entire body work. My mind in this trauma. So even talking about voting, my mind in this trauma, this reflective thinking in this is traumatic space that we've been sitting in America right now. It's a conflict between denying the horrible event and actually saying that the horrible event happened. So like we moving into voting, a lot of undecided voters are sitting in the space that this stuff really is happening.
Really?
And I don't really want to say that it's happening because if I don't acknowledge it, then I don't have to deal with it and we don't have to have a dialogue about it and I can just keep it in my head. And so now I don't want to reflectively think to the renewing of my mind. I don't want to have that cost, that sacrifice piece, because that costs something if I start to reflectively think. It's going to cost me something because I get to see how do I renew? And if that's the case, and I'm trying to do this to this will of God space, this space should be edifying and causing growth. It should be favorable, and it should come to a place of completion for me to my next time in this fluid space of renewing my mind. Romans 12, 1 and 2 is a space. My friend, Dr. Brian Jones, wrote his entire dissertation on it and referred to it as a fluid model of renewal. That's what he called it in his dissertation. So we are to revisit this text often because where's my mind going to? Because this is not a passive task to renew mind. And so, but we have treated it like that in our community because we did not want to deal with the trauma. And so here we are at an election cycle it's a pivot either way it goes on how America is going to function. But how do I bring up everything that's intergenerational trauma? How do I pull up everything over 400 years ago and talk about how this is affecting my body and not drink, not hit, not cuss, not set things on fire? Because that's what this election on both sides is pulling up. And they're running off of it. And it's hurting. And so how do we move into that and talk about it?
So, wow, yeah. Now, seeing that this is record breaking, the voting this year, record breaking, people coming out of cracks, woods, they coming out naked. What, in your opinion, Alicia Jerry, what is the conversation? Because neither one of these men are perfect and we know their lives, right? What is the conversation when it comes to making the decision to vote when you're up against a person saying, my vote doesn't count? Because everything on the table for the one that we would choose to vote for because he appears to have more character than the other one, it don't say a whole lot about what he's gonna do for us. So it's like from a peaceful stand, from a pimp to prostitute point of view, It's like we're being pimped. We don't have no other options, no other choices. But yet we got to make sense of the vote. We got to get who in and out. And then it's going to be much work to do. So how do you convince that person that, my vote ain't going to count?
I start at the state and local level. Let's stress the importance of the grassroots people, your city council person, the person that you can walk up to and speak to at any given time, your mayor that you can go to a city hall meeting, a chamber of commerce meeting. You can write a letter to your governor. You can email your governor and they have to respond back to you. You can write your senator, your representative. Those people have to interact with you. Even if you don't see the value in the presidential election. I know the electoral college has come up a lot this election because of Hillary. That's come up a lot because she had the popular vote and then here we are. So I get that portion is seeming as if it doesn't matter one way or the other, but let's get back to the smaller elections because those are where our voice are absolutely heard. Those are the people that absolutely do and align with what you want to happen within your government. Then those people are in Congress. So whoever the president is, whatever legislation they try to pass that's not in line with your views, you have someone there standing with your view to stop or promote it, regardless of who's in the main seat. That's why there's three branches. That's why there's checks and balances. We get the people we want in the Senate, in the Congress, and then we can stop whomever is in the big house from doing whatever that doesn't promote us, that doesn't support us, that doesn't show us value, that does nothing for us. Because Congress could have done a stimulus. They could have done XYZ, ABC. They chose to leave session. So yeah, we're blaming him, but then the representatives, they hold value with that too. They hold blame with that too. They hold space with that too. So we get the people that are willing to challenge the person in the one house on our behalf to make all of this work as the way it was, the checks and balances it was supposed to be. Speak to the whole situation and not just to one person.
To the different levels of government, starting
Absolutely.
from the bottom, it does get the work done because
Absolutely.
these people are going to represent you. Okay, so we've got 9 minutes. So, Rhonda, Anita, how important is it for our community to vote?
It's extremely important. I mean, I think some of the stuff that we've been through this past year, um, just with Black Lives Matter movement, it really is nothing new. We just had cameras to capture it. You know what I'm saying? Like these things have been going on, and then I'm extremely biased, and I'm not going to apologize for that. But to have someone at such a high level in office to not acknowledge humanity of Black and brown people, to look at white supremacy as the good old boys, but the Black and brown people, our lives don't matter. So it's okay that we can be slaughtered in the streets by the people that's supposed to protect us. I am one track minded right now. And then, with regards to, when I saw just a woman of the cloth, and to see this man go in front of, a church and hold a Bible up, like
Upside down, y'all.
to now mock my faith. I'm just outdone. I'm outdone. Has he done stuff for businesses? I'm a business owner. Yes, that's important to me. But what is more important to me, my pockets or the lives of my community and my son? I have 2 brown boys. And, as a woman who's concerned about how they're treated in the streets, those are things that, concern me. We've just been so many things. And then let's not talk about COVID-19 and how it's, he hid that it was a serious thing until he got it, which I don't know. I'm still on the fence about if he got it or not. Now, I don't want to make this whole conversation about about that man. But I will say that we can't go another 4 years like this. We just can't go another 4 years like this. If we go, I mean, but even if it changes, even if the position of office changes, it's gonna be a major uproar in
Oh,
the
yes,
country,
ma'am.
regardless.
Get ready.
Absolutely.
It's gonna be,
Get ready.
and our black and brown people, you've seen some images of people starting to become armed and learning how to fight because we've been taking this stuff laying down too long. And so regardless to what happens with the election, there is going to be another round of uproar in our country, with more violence. It's just, the writing is just on the wall. So it is important for us to still go out, because regardless, we can't go through another 4 years of what we've been through.
Dr. Holly, how important is it for what role is it of the church? Are we supposed to sit back on our hands and say, well, the Lord will take care of it, and be forced to vote for someone that represents, certain things that most evangelicals believe, regardless of any other craziness, we should vote for such an antichrist? Because decency, Jesus, decency.
Abortion is their issue. It's their.
With everything, all the other 9 commandments are being broken, though. Oh God, all the other 9 commandments are being broken, but it's that one. It is that one.
Here's the point that we have to consider, especially as a church. There has never ever been in our political history another time where emotionalism is leading most of the conversation.
Emotionalism. Did y'all hear that?
Facts.
Did y'all hear that?
And when you think about that, the Republican Party more than 20 something years ago decided to use abortion as their flag. They literally positioned abortion as an argument point to gain the conservative vote, or those people who we now readily recognize as conservative. But 30 years ago, the term conservative had nothing to do with that party. But anyway, that emotional manipulation is the whole thing. If there was ever going to be anything done about abortion by the Republican Party within the last 25 years, don't we think that something would have been done? So they gain more strength by gaining votes with it, as their flag, versus actually doing something about it. So it's literally emotionalism. It's manipulation, emotional manipulation that is being so used against the evangelical thought. The other layer of emotionalism in there is the fact that most of them would never readily admit that they're racist. And so they have to have some other justification that they argue from a quote unquote Christian perspective, so they never actually have to confront their attitude of racism, which points to supremacy. One of the things that we have to consider when we deal with this election, and it's important that we all go vote. And Sister Alicia,
She laid it down, didn't she?
Period, point blank. We have to understand the power that we hold locally. We have to understand that we need to be read up and involved in these local elections. We need to be read up and involved in the House and in the Senate so that we can understand how to, make change happen. But the truth of the matter is the whole idea with the presidential election, it literally is the statement that it makes a status quo. So when you think about a Trump being elected or even reelected, praise God, you literally have the most powerful man in the most powerful country in the world who literally, without any shame, has determined that human dignity for a group of people is not valuable or important. And you gotta realize what that literally says.
That's insane.
Well, it's even worse because American racism has contaminated the world.
It is.
America was never the first to be racist, but we've taken colorism and racism to a whole other perspective, because it's not just about hate now, it's really about superiority.
It is.
And that mindset is literally determined how the rest of the world sees African Americans. Now, how much worse does that get when we have a Trump as our president?
And it's gonna take years to reverse. It's gonna take years to change that.
No, no, no,
Man,
no.
that thing is so embedded. It's like
You
it's
gotta
gonna take.
You got to remember, Trump is nothing. Trump is nothing but the picture of what's already in the heart.
Right. That's why that's why the funk is so strong.
Oh, exactly, because it's a revealing going on. Because I'm not
Right.
I'm mad at all about the revealing. I mean,
Please believe.
I am not.
Please believe. Please believe.
That's more
We
valuable.
know who friends are. We who our
Exactly. And they're really comfortable right there. They
Come
are
on now.
absolutely comfortable being
Yeah.
exactly who they are in front of you to your face.
That's
You don't
right.
get to take that back.
And they're like, oh well. That's how they look at you, like, oh well, I said it. You know, I lived it. Y'all, we're gonna do 10 more minutes. I paid for it, so I can't let this go. This is a very important night. So I like what you're saying. Please finish, because I gotta go to Dr. Margaret.
But the point is dealing with the church and the church's reaction is first you have to get through the manipulation. You have to get through the manipulation. I don't know a single person that's not pro-life. Right?
Hey!
I don't know anybody that's not pro-life. I mean, I don't. You see what I'm saying? So when we make it, if it's about pro-life, then the vast majority of believers, period, are pro-life, right? But then we're also pro-choice. Because here's the reality, God is pro-choice.
Uh-oh.
We have to really think about, what does a Christianity shaped out of government actually look like? See, that's our real problem, and what we can't realize out of this religious consciousness that we've been practicing in. Because kingdom has never been about government creating the morality compass. You follow me? It's supposed to happen out of the realization.
You better teach Dr. Holly. Y'all listen to this.
But it's so powerful. I mean, y'all know this stuff. It is so powerful. So then we have to really realize there is no reason that a believer, especially an African-American believer, which is the prophetic voice, right? Literally is the prophetic voice to the American church. Whether they can hear it or not, the prophecies are being spoken, has no business whatsoever considering Trump. Period. Point blank.
You know what? Yeah, I feel a shock coming on, but I'm gonna hold my peace till I come off this camera.
Now,
Look, you mess, Margaret.
What'd she say?
Margaret is a huge mess in caps. I ain't lying.
What did you say?
Say it loud for the people in the back.
And let me also say this, because this thing is based on manipulation and emotionalism, praise God, I ain't really got a lot to say for Biden. You know what I mean? My only thing for Biden is he's better than Trump. That's it.
Listen here. Y'all, let me tell you, I love the transparency. Let's tell the truth for everybody to hear it, because we just know he's better than what's in there.
Right.
And the thing about it is, it's like I'm all for it for that reason, because some sense got to come back to some things.
Absolutely.
You know, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's really the truth about it. Okay, ain't no argument. There's no argument. We just got to get some decency going on. I have grandchildren, and we'll have great grandchildren one day. It's like, you know, it's got to be. It's a shame. It's a shame in there, and a disgrace. We've been made fun of, and we're the richest country in the world. Moving on. Now, Dr. Margaret, I want you to, girl, pick up what a man with the plan just left off. Because what I want, you know, we're going to leave for real at 8:10. Because I just want to give everybody an opportunity to shout out locations for domestic violence help in your organization and your information, and also some local areas where people can go and vote if it's not too late. And stress that, you know, mailing ain't the move. Mailing ain't the move. It ain't the move right now. It's too late. We need to drop these things out. So go ahead, love.
So I'll say this, like, 100% what Holly said. I wish I wanted to like jump in, but
Right.
But the truth is, we have to because we're sitting in such a high state of emotionalism. Like, it's terrible. We're not coming back to a wise mind. So, you know, be emotional, but then come back and put some logic on it and be wise. Again, I don't know why any person of color, period, would be voting for someone who is dogged out every person of color in the nation. I don't know why we're yelling out pro-life. I don't know any believer that isn't pro-life, but I also know that we understand will and that we have our own will. So when it comes down to like abortion, that literally is you making a choice, because God, this is the one thing I got in my childhood from the pulpit. God is not a rapist. I'm not going to make you do nothing.
He's a straight up gentleman. That's what I was always taught.
Want to show up. So that is what that is. So this giving permission, like we have our own will. So now we're trying to negate God. Like when we talk about that, we're trying to tell God wrong for giving us our own free will. That's what makes us human. That's what makes our brains amazing. That's why we have to sit into a place and go within our most inner parts and decide for ourselves. So that's none of our business what people do with their body. Moving on. So and that's clinician with nothing. What you do with your body, that's between you and God.
What you do with your soul? Let's go a little deeper. And what you do with your soul, because it's a personal salvation.
So this is my only thing to end that. Like maybe, just maybe, because I don't know what this election is gonna do. Truthfully, it's two old white men who petty. Like, and it's been the whole every debate has been just petty. So I don't know, but I am begging people at this point. I'm sitting in like, go vote, just at least exercise, because people died for you to be able to go get on a ballot box and do what you do. So that right. Because what happens when you decide not to, you show them that something that we keep saying is it's the Voters' Right Act. We're showing them that we don't want to participate. So when it comes time to renegotiate the act, please go study the difference between a permanent amendment and an act. When it's time to renegotiate this act, Black people, if you don't show up, what are they going to say? Oh, they don't want to vote. No way. They're going to dismiss the act. Guess what? We got to repeat history and fight for it again. I don't know why it hasn't become a law. But at the end of the day, y'all go study that on your own. Please go exercise your right to vote, because it's currently an act that we can use. So that's all I have to offer. And don't let people mislead you in emotionalism with Bible verses. Like I was to laugh, and Ecclesiastes 10:2 has nothing to do with voting, but a wise man's heart is at the right hand and a fool's is at the left. I've heard that, and I was laughing until I went and looked it up. That has nothing to do with voting, but this is what people are putting out, and it's getting people really riled up. And I mean, African American preachers are putting this out. I got one lady I follow, and it hurts my heart to watch her. But she puts it out. And this is one of the verses she used. And she was like, this is why we know that Trump is on the right, and this is God's man. Vote Trump 2020. I mean, she used this verse. And
it's a manipulation of the scripture. I call it witchcraft.
Yeah. So
exactly what it is.
And have your mind. Ask God for discernment in making a choice, and hear the heart of God. The only way you can hear that is if you're sitting in spaces that are empowered, that are favorable, and that are going to be a complete work for this process. If you can do that, then you'll hear and you'll move on how you need to.
Okay, you did good. Come on now. Now this is what I want right now, because we got like 3 minutes and I just need 30 seconds. So I want Rhonda, Anita, I want you to come back in, and I want you to please announce your domestic violence organization and what help that it is that you offer. And then I want Alicia Jerry, I want you to come back in and do the same. And Margaret, I want you to come back and tell about your services that you provide for mental health. And Dr. Holly, I want you to come back and mention your book. I just need 30 seconds before we go out. So we got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Rhonda, Anita.com. You can also go to rosatl.org and find us there. If you are watching internationally or nationally, you can also call the National Domestic Violence Hotline for help, which is 800-799-SAFE, SAFE.
Amen. Okay, Alicia Jerry.
I'm Alicia Jerry, ACE Outreach Now, ACE Outreach Now. Our website is www.aceoutreachnow.org, and our Facebook is Alicia Jerry, ACE Outreach.
Okay, Dr. Margaret, tell everybody where your clinic is at.
My private practice is located in Smyrna, Georgia. Our trauma therapist actually added a clinician a month ago, so I got to announce that this week. And so we are all trained in aspects of trauma therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, DBT, and we are currently receiving clients. So if you need to talk about this, male or female, in regards to domestic violence, please contact us. You can find me at www.mlcconsultingllc.com, or you can reach me directly at margaret@mlcconsultingllc.com, and I will get back with you ASAP.
Amen. Dr. Holly, please tell everybody about your book, sir, that you just put out.
Amen. You can visit our website, sebastianaliministries.com, our resource page, and we have several books there you can go and check out. Our most recent book is Who Stole the Christ? Who Stole the Christ? And we're just examining American Christianity, this compartmentalized Christianity, and just seeing how closely to biblical practices it may not be. So,
Mention the book signing.
oh, November the 7th, 12 o'clock at Unity Grounds Cafe, 214 Nelson Street, Cartersville, Georgia. Come up. We're going to do a big book signing. Come out and support us. Come drink some coffee and hang out with us.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have been tuned into I'm Not Okay. Why? Listen, when life gets blurry, adjust your focus. I'm Coach Deb. I want you to remember to love yourself, love everybody, and be an example. Vote, vote, vote. Good night. Thank you, ladies and
You're welcome.
King.